Hello. I am so tired today. We're in the middle of quarantine. For the past 2 years, I think, I've been dealing with depression and anxiety, and for the most part, my medicine helps with that. But I do occasionally get really terrible fatigue, and this morning I woke up and felt like death, and I feel like I can't do anything today. Anyhow, in part because of that, I'm looking for creative solutions to work from home. And as a part of that, I've been working on getting up this YouTube channel. Now, at first I wanted to play World of Warcraft and some League of Legends, because I enjoy those games a lot, but I don't really know how to be a streamer, and so that's something I'm still interested in, still looking at. But lately I've been thinking about what my skills are, and I do hold a degree in theology, and I also am about to have my master's degree in teaching English as a second language, and I'm working on a literature degree as well at the master's level. So, anyhow, with that said, I think I'm going to be expanding the types of videos I produce for YouTube, probably to include English lessons and, well, currently I'm just reading bits of Malory because I have to for my class. But I'm just trying to find ways where I can produce content and whatnot and provide a service without necessarily having to leave my home, because waking up exhausted is infuriating. With that said, today I'm reading another part of Thomas Malory. So this is the original story, Arthurian tales. The bits that I need to read for my class include, let me just open up the front of the book, see where it's at. There we go. Torre and Pellinor, The War with the Five Kings, Arthur and Accolon, and Gawain, Ewain, and Marholt. So those are the pieces I plan to be reading today. I might take some breaks, might read it all together, not sure yet. Anyhow, these are Malory. So this is the complete works of Thomas Malory. I don't have the rights to this book. It is it was written by Thomas Malory, but this version was edited by Eugene Vinaver, and it is the property of Oxford University Press. So, I am just reading bits of a book that you can buy yourself. So, okay. I'll be not really modeling the reading. What I'm doing is I'm familiar with Middle English. I'm not an expert on it. I've studied Greek, which is completely different. But because I am familiar with languages and how they work, I find that I have an easier time sight reading Middle English than other students do necessarily. So I'm just going to be sight reading this today and doing a little bit of translation on the fly. So hopefully, if you need to read bits of Malory, then you'll be able to follow along, and this might make your reading easier. Alright. Torre and Pellinor. In the beginning of Arthur, after he was chosen king by adventure and by grace, for the most party of the barons knew not that he was Uther Pendragon's son, but as Merlin made it openly known, but yet many kings and lords held him great were because of that cause. But while Arthur overcame them all, the most party days of his life he was ruled by the counsel of Merlin. So it fell on a time King Arthur said unto Merlin, My barons will let me have no rest, but need I must take a wife, and I would none take but by your counsel and advice. "It is well done," said Merlin, "that you take a wife, for a man of your bounty and nobles should not be without a wife. Now, is there any," said Merlin, "that you love more than another?" "Yes," said King Arthur, "I love Guinevere, the king's daughter of Laudegrain, of the land of Camelard, uh, the, the which holdeth in his house the table round that you told me had it my father Uther. And this damsel is the most valiant and fairest that I know living, or that I ever could find." "Certainly," said Merlin, "as her beauty and fairness she is one of the fairest alive. But, an you have loved her not so well as you do, I should find you a damsel of beauty and of goodness that should like you and please you, and your heart were not set. But thereas man's heart is set, he will be loth to return." "That is truth," said King Arthur. But Merlin warned the king covertly that Guinevere was not wholesome for him to take to wife, for he warned him that Lancelot should love her, and she him again, and so he turned his tale to the adventures of the Saint Grail. The Saint Grail is the Holy Grail. Then Merlin desired of the king for to have men with him that should inquire of Guinevere, and so the king granted him. And so Merlin went forth unto the King Laudegrain of Camelard, and told him of the desire of the king that he would have unto his wife Guinevere his daughter. "That is to me," said King Laudegrains, "the best tidings that ever I heard, that so worthy a king of prowess and noblesse will wed my daughter. And as for my lands, I would give it him if I wished it might please him. But he has lands now, he needs none. But I shall send him a gift that shall please him much more, for I shall give him the Table Round which Uther his father gave me. And when it is fully complete, there is 100 knights and 50, for so many have been slain in my days." And so King Laudgrants delivered his daughter Guinevere unto Merlin, and the Table Round with the 100 knights, and so they rode freshly with great royalty, what by water and by land, till that they came near to London. When King Arthur heard of the coming of Queen Guinevere and the 100 knights and the Table Round, then King Arthur made great joy for her coming, and that rich present, and said openly, "This fair lady is passingly welcome to me, for I have loved her long, and therefore there is nothing so lief to me. And these kings with the Table Round pleased me more than right great riches." And in all haste the king let ordain for the marriage and the coronation of the most honorablest wise that could be devised. "Now, Merlin," said King Arthur, "go thou and espy me in all this land 50 knights which be of most prowess and worship." So within short time Merlin had found such knights that should fulfill 28 knights, but no more would he find. Then the Bishop of Canterbury was fet, and he blessed the Segis with great royalty and devotion, and there sat the 28 knights in her Segis. And when this was done, Merlin said, "Fair sirs, ye must all arise and come to King Arthur, for to do him homage, he will the better be in will to maintain you." And so they arose and did their homage, and when they had gone, Merlin found in every siege letters of gold that told the knight's name, and that had sitten there, but 2 Segis were void. And so immediately came in young Gawain, and asked the king a gift. "Ask," said the king, "and I shall grant you." "Sir, I ask that ye shall make me knight that same day as ye shall wed Dame Guinevere." "I will do it with a good will," said King Arthur, "and do unto you all the worship that I may, for I must be reason you are my nephew, my sister's son." Forthwithal there come a poor man into the court, and he brought him a fair young man of 18 years of age, riding upon a lean mare, and the poor man asked all the men that he met, "Where shall I find King Arthur?" "Yonder he is," said the knights, Um, uh, do you will anything with him? Yes, said the poor man, therefore I came here. And as soon as he come before the king, he saluted him, and said, King Arthur, the flower of all kings, I beseech Jesus save thee. Sir, it was told me that at this time of your marriage you would give any man the gift that he would ask you, except that it were unreasonable. That is truth, said the king. Such cries I let make, and that will I hold. So it appears not my realm nor mine estate. Ye see well and graciously, said the poor man. Sir, I ask nothing else but that you will make my son a knight. It is a great thing that you ask of me, said the king. What is your name? Said the king to the poor man. Sir, my name is Ares the cowherd. Whether cometh this of the other else of thy son? Said the king. Not entirely sure what that means there. Nay, said Sir Ares, this desire comes of my son and not of me. For I shall tell you, I have 13 sons, and all they will fall to what labor I put them, and will be right glad to do labor. But this child will not labor for nothing that my wife and I may do, but always he will be shouting, or casting darts, and glad to do battles, and to behold knights, and always day and night he desires of me to be made a knight. What is thy name? Said the king unto the young man. Sir, thy name is Torre. Then the king beheld him fast, and saw he was a passingly well-visaged, and made well of his years. Well, said King Arthur unto Ares the cowherd, go fetch all your sons before me, that I may see them. And so the poor man did, and all were shaped much like the poor man, but Torre was not like him neither in shape nor in countenance, for he was much more than any of them. Now, said King Arthur unto the cowherd, where is the sword he shall be made knight withal? It is here, said Torre. Take it out of the sheath, said the king, and require me to make you a knight. Then Torre alighted of his mare, and pulled out his sword, kneeling, and requiring the king to make him a knight, and that he made him knight of the Table Round. As for a knight, I will make you, and therewith smote him in the neck with the sword. Be ye a good knight, and so I pray to God ye may be. If ye be of prowess and worthiness, ye shall be of the Table Round. Now, Merlin, said Arthur, where shall this Tory, will this Tory be a good man? Yes, heartily, sir. He ought to be a good man, for he is come of good kindred, and of any one alive, and he's of king's blood. How so, sir? Said the king. I shall tell you. This poor man Ares the cowherd is not his father, for he is no sibling to him, for King Pellinor is his father. I suppose not, said the cowherd. Well, fetch thy wife before me, said Merlin, and I shall not say no. Immediately the wife was fetched forth, which was a fair housewife, and there she answered Merlin full womanly. And there she told the king that Merlin, that when she was a maid, and went to Milkerkin, there met with me a stern knight, and half by force he had my maidenhood, and at that time he begot my son Torre, and he took away from me my greyhound that I had at the time with me, and said he would keep the greyhound for my love. Ah, said the coward, I wished it had not been thus, but I may believe it well, for he never had no tackies of me. Sir Torre said unto Merlin, Dishonour not my mother. Sir, said Merlin, it is more for your worship than hurt, for your father is a good knight and king, and he may right well advance you and your mother both, for you were begotten or ever she was wedded, before she was wed. That is truth, said the wife. It is the less grief unto me, said the cowherd. So on the morn King Pellinor came to the court of King Arthur, and he had great joy of him, and told him of Sir Torre, how he was his son, and how he had made him knight at the request of the cowherd. When King Pellinor beheld Sir Torre, he pleased him much. So the king made Gawain knight, but Sir Torre was the first he made at the feast. What is the cause, said King Arthur, that there is 2 places void in the sedges? Sir, said Merlin, there shall no man sit in those places but they that shall be of most worship. But in the sage Perilous there shall never be a man sit but one, and if there be any so hardy to do it, he shall be destroyed, and he that sit therein shall have no fellows. And therewith Merlin took King Pellinor by the hand, and in that one hand next the 2 sages, and the sage Perilous, he said in open audience, This is your place, for best are you worthy to sit therein of any that is here. And thereat he had Sir Gawain great envy, and told Gareth, his brother, Yonder knight is put to great worship, which grieveth me sore, for he slew our father King Lot. Therefore I will slay him, said Gawain, with a sword that was set me that is passing trenchant. Ye shall not do so, said Gaheris, at this time, for as now I am but your squire, and when I am made a knight I will be avenged on him, and therefore, brother, it is best to suffer till another time, that we may have him out of court, for and we did so trouble this high feast. I will well, said Gawain. Then this feast was made ready, and the king was wedded at Camelot unto Dame Guinevere in the church of St. Stephen's with great solemnity. Then, as every man was set in his degree, asked Merlin, went to all the knights of the Round Table, and bade them sit still, that none of you remove, for you shall see a strange and marvellous adventure. Right so, as they sat there, came running in a white hart into the hall, and a white brachet next to him, and 30 couple of black running hounds came after with a great cry. And the hart went about the Round Table, and as he went by the side boards, the brachet ever bote him by the buttock, and pulled out a piece, where thereof the hart lope a great leap, and overthrew a knight that sat at the sideboard. And therewith the knight arose and took up the brachet, and so went forth out of the hall, and took his horse and rode his way with the brachet. Right so come in the lady on a white palfrey, and cried aloud unto King Arthur, and said, Sir, suffer me not to have this, for the brachet is mine that the knight hath laid away. I may not do therewith, said the king. So with this there came a knight riding all armed on a great horse, and took the lady away with force with him, and ever she cried and made great dole. So when she was gone, the king was glad, for she made such a noise. Nay, said Merlin, you may not leave it so, this adventure so lightly, for this adventure must be brought to an end, or else it will be disworship to you and your feast. I will, said the king, that all be done by your advice. Then he let call Sir Gawain, for he must bring again his white hart. Also, sir, ye must call Sir Torre, for he must bring again the brachet and the knight, or else slay him. And let call King Pellinor, for he must bring again the lady and the knight, or else slay him. And these 3 knights shall do marvellous adventures, or they come again. Then were they called all 3 as it is rehearsed for, and every one of them took their charge and armed them surely. But Sir Gawain had the first request, and therewith he will begin at him, and so forth to the others. Here beginneth the first battle that ever Sir Gawain did after he was made knight. Sir Gawain rode more than a pace, and Gaheris, his brother, rode with him in the steed of a squire to do him service. So as they rode, they saw 2 knights fight on horseback, passing sore. So Sir Gawain and his brother rode between them, and asked them for what cause they fought. So one of the knights said, We fight but for a simple matter, for we be 2 brethren, and be begotten of one man and of one woman. Alas, said Sir Gawain. Sir, said the elder brother, there come a white hart this way, this same day, and many hounds chased him, and a white brocket was always next to him, and we understood it was an adventure made for the high feast of Arthur, and therefore I would have gone after to have won me worship, and here my younger brother said he would go after the hart, for he was a bigger knight than I, and for this cause we fell at debate, and so we thought to prove which one of us was the bigger knight. Forsooth this is a simple cause, said Gawain, for uncouth men you should debate withal, and no brother with brother. Therefore do by my counsel, or else I will have to ado with you both. Either yield you to me that you go into King Arthur, and yield you unto his grace. Sir knight, said the two brethren, we are forfoughten, and much blood we have lost through our wilfulness, and therefore we would be loath to have ado with you. Then do as I will have you do, said Sir Gawain. We agree to fulfill your will, but by whom shall we say that we there were sent? You may say, by the knight that followeth the quest of the hart. Now what is your name? Said Gawain. Sir, my name is Sorlouse of the Forest, said the elder. And my name is, said the younger, Brian of the Forest. And so they departed and went to the king's court, and Sir Gawain followed his quest. And as he followed the hart by the cry of the hounds, even before him there was a great river, and the hart swam over. And as Sir Gawain would have followed after, there stood a knight on the other side and said, Sir knight, come not over after this hart, but if you would joust with me. I will not fail as for that, said Sir Gawain, to follow the quest that I am in, and so made his horse swim over the water, and immediately they gate their glaives, and ran together full hard. But Gawain smote him of his horse, and turned his horse, and he bade him yield to him. Nay, said the knight, not so, for though you have the better of me on horseback, I pray thee, valiant knight, alight on foot, and match me together with our swords. What is your name? Said Sir Gawain. Sir, my name is Alardine of the Out-Eels. Then either dressed their shields and smote together, but Sir Gawain smote him so hard through the helm that it went to the brain, and the knight fell down dead. Ah, said Gaheris, that was a mighty stroke of a young knight. Then Sir Gawain and Gaheris rode more than a pass after the white hart, and let slip at the hart 3 couple of greyhounds, and so they chased the hart into a castle, and in the chief place of that castle they slew the hart. Gawain and Gaheris followed after. Right so there came a knight out of the chamber with a sword drawn in his hand, and slew 2 of the greyhounds, even in the sight of Sir Gawain, and the remnant he chased with his sword out of the castle. And when he had come again, he said, Ah, my white hart, I repent that I am sorry that you are dead, for my sovereign lady gave to me, and evil have I kept thee, and thy death shall be evil bought, and I live. And immediately he went into his chamber, and armed himself, and came out fiercely. And there he met with Sir Gawain, and he said, Why have you slain my hounds? For they did but their kind, and I would that ye had wroken your anger upon me, rather than upon a dumb beast. Thou sayest truth, said the knight. I have avenged me on thy hounds, and so I will on thee, or thou go. Then Sir Gawain, alight on foot, and dressed his shield, and stroked together mightily, and clave their shields, and stoned their helms, and brake their hauberks, that their blowed thurled down to their feet. So at last Sir Gawain smote so hard that the knight fell to the earth, and then he cried mercy, and yielded him, and besought him, as he was a gentle knight, to save his life. Thou shalt die, said Sir Gawain, for slaying of my hounds. I will make amends, said the knight, to my power. But Sir Gawain would no mercy have, but unlaced his helm to have stricken of his head. Right so come his lady out of a chamber, and fell over him. and so he smote of her head by misfortune. Alas, said Gaheris, that is foul and shamefully done, for that shame shall never from you, and ye should give mercy unto them that ask mercy, for a knight without mercy is without worship. So Sir Gawain was sore stoned at the death of this fair lady, that he wished not what he had done, and said unto the knight, Arise, I will give the mercy. Nay, nay, said the knight, I take no force of thy mercy now, for you have slain with villainy my love and my lady that I loved best of the earth of earthly things. I sorely repent of it, said Sir Gawain, for I meant the stroke unto thee. But now you shall go unto King Arthur, and tell him of thine adventure, and how thou art overcome by the knight that went in the quest of the white hart. I take no force, said the knight, whether I live or die. But at last, for fear of death, he swore to go unto King Arthur, and he made him to bear the one greyhound before him on his horse, and the other behind him. What is your name, said Sir Gawain, or we depart? My name is, said the knight, Blamor of the Mares. So he departed toward Camelot, and Sir Gawain went unto the castle, and made him ready to lie there all night, and would have unarmed him. What will you do? Said Gaheris. Will you unarm you in this country? You may think you have many foes in this country. He had no sooner said the word, but there came in 4 knights well armed, and assailed Sir Gawain hard, and said unto him, Thou new-made knight, thou hast shamed thy knighthood, for a knight without mercy is dishonoured. Also thou hast slain a fair lady to thy great shame unto this world end, and doubt not thou that thou shalt have great need of mercy, or thou depart from us. And therewith one of them smote Sir Gawain with a great stroke, that near he fell to the earth, and Gaheris smote him again sore. And so they were assailed on the one side and on the other, that Sir Gawain and Gaheris were in jeopardy of their lives. And one with a bow and archer smote Sir Gawain through the arm, and that it grieved him wonderly sore. And as they should have been slain, there came 4 ladies, and besought the knights of grace for Sir Gawain. And goodly at the request of these ladies, they gave Sir Gawain and Gaheris their lives, and made them to yield to them as prisoners. Then Sir Gawain and Gaheris made a great dole. Alas, said Sir Gawain, man arm gives me sore, that I am like to be maimed. And so he made his complaint piteously. And so early in the morn there come to Sir Gawain one of the 4 ladies that had heard him complain, and said, Sir Knight, what cheer? How are you? Not good. Why so? It is your own fault, said the lady, for you have done passing foul for the slaying of this lady, that which will be great villainy unto you. But be you not of King Arthur's? Said the lady. Yes, truly, said Sir Gawain. What is your name, sir? Said the lady, for you must tell, or you pass. Fair lady, my name is Sir Gawain, the king's son-lot of Orkney, and my mother is King Arthur's sister. Then are you nephew unto the king? Said the lady. Well, said the lady, I shall speak for you, that you shall have leave to go unto King Arthur for his love. And so she departed, and told the 4 knights how the prisoner was King Arthur's nephew, and how his name was Sir Gawain, King Lot's son of Orkney. And so they gave him leave, and took him the hart's head with him, because it was in the quest. And then they delivered him under this promise, that he should bear the dead lady with him on this manner. The head of her was hanged about his neck, and the whole body of her before him on the horse mane. Right so he rode forth into Camelot, and immediately as he was come, Merlin did make King Arthur that Sir Gawain was sworn to tell of his adventure, and how he slew the lady, and how he would give no mercy unto the knight, wherethereof the lady was slain. Then the king and the queen were greatly displeased with Sir Gawain for the slaying of the lady, And there by ordinance of the queen there was set a quest of ladies upon Sir Gawain, and they judged him for ever while he lived to be with all ladies and to fight for her quarrels, and ever that he should be courteous, and never refuse mercy to him that asks mercy. Thus was Sir Gawain sworn upon the 4 evangelists that he should never be against a lady nor a gentlewoman, but if he fight for a lady and his adversary fight for another. And thus endeth the adventure of Sir Gawain that he did at the marriage of Arthur. Alright, give me a moment. This is quite long. Okay, there's only a few pages left. Alright, so to catch you up to speed, what's going on is King Arthur is getting married to Guinevere, even though Merlin was like, I wish you kind of loved someone else because Guinevere and Lancelot are gonna fall in love. And King's like, but I love her. So he marries her anyway, because even though he follows Merlin most of the time, when it comes to women, nope. King Arthur does his own thing. So, that's that. Then, his nephew, who is technically next in line for the throne at this point, Sir Gawain, is at their wedding feast, and they're getting married and stuff, and a hart. I honestly don't know what a hart is. I keep imagining that it's some type of rabbit, or maybe I know that a hind was, like, reference to a deer, but it's some animal. Some animal they're chasing. This hart comes through, and runs through, and there's all this chaos, and that becomes Sir Gawain's quest. He has to go and get the heart back, or bring back the heart and slay the heart. So he goes, and he comes across various knights. He finds 2 brothers fighting, tells them to go. Sorry. He tells them to go to King Arthur, talk to him. He meets this other knight across the river that's like, you can't go past here unless you fight me. Kills him, chases the hart into a castle where he is fighting with the head of the castle, who then asks him for mercy. And apparently that is really important, because as it keeps saying in the book, is that because he doesn't give mercy to the knight that asked, it brings dishonor on him as a knight, and it makes him look bad. And reputation was everything in King Arthur's court. So this is really interesting. And a lot of Arthurian tales kind of bring in the good and the bad of the nobility. And that's part of what we're seeing here. So Sir Gawain goes, and because he doesn't have mercy on the guy, so what would happen sometimes in these stories is someone would do something bad, but then it would come back to bite them by becoming something worse. So he decides not to have mercy on this knight, which was breaking the rules of chivalry and knightness and everything like that. He decides not to have mercy on this knight, and then the lady walks by right as he's cutting down, and he kills her. So, by not having mercy, he ended up killing a innocent woman instead, and that's much worse than not having mercy. And so it's kind of this idea that if you do one thing bad, you never know what else might happen. So that's part of what happens. And so then he's like, okay, I'll have mercy, because his brother's like, you really should have mercy. And they're like, it's too late, you already killed this woman, she was innocent. And so they talk it out, and because he's King Arthur's nephew, they decide to send him back and let King Arthur decide what to do with him. King Arthur gives this charge to Guinevere, because she's a lady, and she basically says that Sir Gawain will be at the beck and hand of women. If any maiden, if any woman ever asks him to do something, he must always live his life, and his life as a knight of service is to serve women. That's what I got from it. I'm not an expert, so make sure you double check stuff, but from my reading, that's how I interpreted it. First time. This is my first time reading it, so you never know. I'm not an expert. That's what I think just happened. But we're not completely done with Torre and Pellinor, and now we're going to read about Sir Torre. There's only about 3 pages left. It's getting close to lunchtime, so just keeping track of the clock. Okay. When Sir Torre was ready, he mounted upon horseback and rode after the knight with the brachet. And so as he rode, he met with a dwarf suddenly, that smote his horse on the head with a staff, that he reeled backwards his spear length. Why did you do that? Said Sir Torre. For thou shalt not pass this way, but if thou joust with yonder knights of the pavilions. Then was Sir Torre where were there 2 pavilions, and great spears stood out, and 2 shields hanging on trees by the pavilions. I may not tarry, said Sir Torre, for I am in a quest that I must need to follow. Thou shalt not pass this way, said the dwarf, and therewithal he blew his horn. Then there came one armed on horseback, and dressed his shield, and came fast toward Sir Torre. And then he dressed him against him, and so ran together, and Sir Torre bare him from his horse, and immediately the knight yielded him to his mercy. But, sir, I have a fellow in yonder pavilion that will have ado with you immediately. He shall be welcome, said Sir Torre. Then was he ware of another knight coming with great rondom, and each of them dressed to the other, and that marvel it was to see. But the knight smote Sir Torre a great stroke in the middle of his shield, that his spear all too shivered. Then Sir Torre smote him through the shield beneath, and that it went through the cost of the knight, but the stroke slew him not. And therewith Sir Torre alight, and smote him on the helm a great stroke, and therewith the knight yielded him, and besought him of mercy. I will well, said Sir Torre, but you and your fellow must go unto King Arthur, and yield you prisoners unto him. By whom shall we say we are there sent? Ye shall say, by the knight that went in the quest of the knight with the brachet. Now what be your 2 names? Said Sir Torre. My name is, said the one, Sir Felot of Languedoc, and my name is, said the other, Sir Petipace of Winchelsea. Now go forth, said Sir Torre, and God speed you and me. Then came the dwarf and said unto Sir Torre, I pray you give me my bone. I will well, said Sir Torre. Ask and ye shall have. I ask no more, said the dwarf, but that you will suffer me to do you service, for I will serve no more recreant knights. Well, take a horse, said Sir Torre, and ride one with me. For I would, said the dwarf, you ride after the knight with the white brachet, and I shall bring you where he is, said the dwarf. And so they rode throughout a forest, and at last they were aware of 2 pavilions, even by a priory, with 2 shields, and that one shield was enewed with white, and the other was red. Therewith Sir Torre alight, or got off, and took the dwarf his glaive, and so he came to the white pavilion. He saw 3 damsels lie in it on a pallet sleeping, and so he went into the other pavilion, and found a lady lying in it sleeping, but therein was the white brachet that bade at him fast. And then Sir Torre took up the brachet, and went his way, and took it to the dwarf. And with the noise the lady came out of the pavilion, and all her damsels, and said, Will you take my brachet from me? Yes, said Sir Torre, this brachet have I sought from King Arthur's court hither. Well, said the lady, Sir Knight, you shall not go far with her, but that you will be met with and grieved. I shall abide what adventure that comes by the grace of God. and so mounted upon his horse, and passing on his way toward Camelot. But it was so near night that he might not pass but a little farther. Know ye any lodging near here? Said Sir Torry. I know none, said the dwarf, but here besides is an Armitage, and there you must take lodging as you find. And within a while they came to the hermit's house, and took such lodging as was there, and as grass and oats and bread for the horses. Soon it was sped, and full hard was their supper, but they were rested them all night till on the morn, and heard a mass devoutly, and so took their leave of the hermit. And so Sir Torry prayed the hermit to pray for him, and he said he would, and betook him to God, and so mounted upon horseback, and rode towards Camelot a long while. So with that they heard a knight call loud and that come after them, and said, Knight, abide and yield my brachet that thou took from my lady. Sir Torry returned again, and beheld him how he was a seemly knight, and well horsed and armed at all points. Then Sir Torry dressed his shield, and took his glaive in his hands, and they came fiercely on as fresh men, and drove both horse and man to the earth. Immediately they arose lightly, and drew their swords as eagerly as lions, and put their shields before them, and smote through their shields, that the cantels fell on both parties. Also they tamed their helms, that the hot blood ran out, and the thick mails of their hauberks they carf and roof in sunder, that the hot blood ran to the earth, and both they had many wounds, and were passing weary. But Sir Torry espied the other knight fainted, and then he sewed fast upon him, and doubled his strokes, and stroke him to the earth on the one side. Then Sir Torry bade him yield to him. That will I not, said Abellius, while lasteth the life and the soul in my body, unless that thou wilt give me the brachet. That will I not, said Sir Torry, for it was my quest to bring again the brachet, the other both. What that came a damsel riding on a palfrey as fast as she might drive, and cried with a loud voice unto Sir Torry, What will you with me? Said Sir Torry. I beseech thee, said the damsel, for King Arthur's love, give me a gift. I require the gentle knight, as thou art a gentleman. Now, said Sir Torry, ask a gift, and I will give it you. Grant mercy, said the damsel. Now I ask the head of this false knight Abelus, for he is the most outrageous knight that lives, and the greatest murderer. I am loath, said Sir Torry, of that gift I have given you, but let him make amends in that he has trespassed against you. Now, said the damsel, I may not, for he slew my own brother before mine eyes, and that was a better knight than he, and he had had grace, and I kneeled half an hour before him in the mire, for to save my brother's life that had done him no damage, but he fought with him by adventure of armies, and so for all that I could do he strake off his head. Wherefore I require thee, as thou art a true knight, to give me my gift, or else I shall shame thee in all the court of King Arthur, for he is the falsest knight living, and a great destroyer of men, and namely of good knights. So when Abellius heard this, he was made afraid, and yielded himself and asked mercy. I may not now, said Sir Torry, but I should be found false of my promise, for wherewhile when I would have ta'en you to mercy, you would none asked, but if you had the brachet again, that was my quest. And therewith he took off his helm, and therewith he arose and fled, and Sir Torry after him, and smote off his head quite. Now, sir, said the damsel, it is near night. I pray you come and lodge hereby at my place. I will well, said Sir Torry, for my horse and I have fared evil since we departed from Camelot. And so he rode with her, and had passing good cheer with her. And she had passing fair old knight unto her husband, that made him good cheer as well, used both his horse and him. And on the morn he heard his mass, and brake his fast, and took his leave of the knight, and of the lady that besought him to tell his name. Truly, he said, my name is Sir Torry, that was late made knight. and this was the first quest of arms that ever I did, to bring again that this knight Abalus took away from King Arthur's court. Now, fair knight, said the lord and lady, and ye come here in our marquise. See here your poor lodging, and it shall be always at your commandment. So Sir Torre departed and come to Camelot on the third day by noon, and the king and the queen and all the court was passing fain of his coming, and made great joy and that he was come again. For he went from the court with little succour, but as King Pellinor, his father, gave him an old courser, and King Arthur gave him armour and sword, other else had he none other succour, but rode so forth himself alone. And then the king and the queen by Merlin's advice made him swear to tell of his adventures, and so he told and made privy of his deeds as it is before rehearsed, wherefore the king and the queen made great joy. Nay, nay, said Merlin, this is but japes that he hath do, for he shall prove a noble knight of prowess as few living, and gentle and courteous, and of good tactics, other than passing true of his promise, and never shall he outrage. Wherethero Merlin's word is King Arthur gave an earldom of lands that fell unto him, and here endeth the quest of Sir Torre, King Pellinor's son. Then King Pellinor armed him, and mounted upon his horse, and rode more than a pace after the lady that the knight led away. And he rode in a forest, and he saw a valley a damsel sit by a well, and a wounded knight in her arms, and King Pellinor slewed her. And when she was aware of him, she cried on loud, and said, Help me, knight, for Jesus' sake. But King Pellinor would not tarry, he was so eager in his quest, and ever she cried, and 100 times after help. And when she saw that he would not abide, she prayed unto God to send him as much need of help as she had, and that he might feel it or he died. So as the book telleth, the knight there died that was wounded, and wherefore for pure sorrow the lady slew herself with his sword. As King Pellinor rode in the valley, he met with a poor man, a labourer, and said, Sayest thou any knight riding this way, leading a lady? Yes, sir, said the man, I saw that knight and the lady that had made great dole, and yonder beneath in the valley there shall see 2 pavilions, and one of the knights of the pavilions challenged that lady of the knight, and said she was his cousin here, wherefore he should lead her no farther. And so they waged battle in that quarrel, that one said he would have her by force, and that other said he would have the rule of her, for he was her kinsman, and would lead her to her kin. So for this quarrel he left him fighting, and if ye will ride apace ye shall find them fighting. And the lady was left with 2 squires in the pavilions. God thank ye, said King Pellinor. Then he rode a wallop till he had a sight of the 2 pavilions and the 2 knights fighting. And immediately he rode unto the pavilions and saw the lady how she was there, for she was his quest, and said, Fair lady, you must go with me to the court of King Arthur. Sir knight, said the 2 squires, yonder are 2 knights that fight for this lady. Go ye thither, and depart them, and ye be agreed with them, and then ye may have her at your pleasure. You say well, said King Pellinor, and immediately he rode between them and departed them, and asked them what was the cause of their fight. Sir knight, said the one, I shall tell you. This lady is my kinswoman near, and my aunt's daughter. And when I heard her complain that she was with him, maugre her head, I waged battle to fight with him. Sir knight, said this other, whose name was Autelake of Wenteland, and this lady and I gate be prowess of hands and armies this day at Arthur's court. That is not true, said King Pellinor, for you come in suddenly thereas we were at the high feast, and took away this lady, or any man might make him ready, and therefore it was my quest to bring her again, and you both, or else that one of us leave in the field. Therefore this lady shall go with me, other I shall die therefore, for so I have promised King Arthur. And therefore fight ye no more, for none of you shall have part of her at this time. And if you if you desire to fight with her for her with me, I will defend her. Well, said the knights, make you ready, and we shall assail you with all our power. And as King Pellinore would have put his horse from him, Sir Audelake rove his horse through with a sword, and said, Now art thou afoot as well as we are. When King Pellinore saw that his horse was slain, lightly he leapt from his horse, and pulled out his sword, and put his shield before him, and said, Knight, keep the well, for thou shalt have a buffet for the slaying of my horse. So King Pellinore gave him such a stroke upon the helm that he cleaved the head down to the chin, and fell down to the earth dead. Then he turned him to the other knight that was sore wounded, but when he saw that the buffet he would not fight, but kneeled down and said, Take my cousin, this lady, with you, as is your quest, and I require you, as you be a true knight, put her to no shame nor villainy. What, said King Pellinore, will you not fight for her? No, said the knight, I will not fight with such a knight of prowess as you be. Well, said King Pellinore, I promise you that she shall have no villainy by me, as I am a true knight. But now I want a horse, said King Pellinore, but I will have Autelac's horse. Sir, you shall not need, said the knight, for I shall give you such a horse as shall please you, so that you'll lodge with me, for it is near night. I will well, said King Pellinore, abide with you all night. And there he had with him a right good cheer, and fared of the best with passing good wine, and had merry rest that night. And on the morn he heard mass and dined, and so he was brought him by a fair bay courser, and King Pellinore's saddle set upon him. Now what shall I call you, said the knight, inasmuch as ye have my cousin at your desire of your quest? Sir, I shall tell you, my name is King Pellinore, King of the Illis, and Knight of the Table Round. Now I am glad, said the knight, that such a noble man should have the rule of my cousin. Now what is your name, said King Pellinore, I pray you tell me. Sir, my name is Sir Meliot de Logers, and this lady my cousin, her name is called Neneve. And this knight that was in the other pavilion was my sworn brother, a passing good knight, and his name is Brian of the Illis, and he is full loath to do any wrong or to fight with any man, but if he be sore sought on. It is a marvel, said King Pellinore, he would not have ado with me. Sir, he will not have ado with no man, but if it be at his request. I pray you bring him to the court of one of these days, said King Pellinore. Sir, we will come together. You shall be welcome, said King Pellinore, to the court of King Arthur, and you shall be greatly allowed for your coming. And so he departed with the lady, and brought her to Camelot. But so as they rode in a valley, it was full of stones, and there the lady's horse stumbled, and threw her down, and her arm was sore bruised, that nearhan she swooned for pain. Alas, said the lady, mine arm is out of life, where therefore I must need rest me. Ye shall well, said King Pellinore, and so he alight under a tree where there was fair grass, and put his horse thereto, and so rested them under the tree, and slept till it was near night. And when he awoke, he would have ridden farther, but the lady said, You may as well ride backwards as forward, it is so dark. So they abode still, and made there their lodging. Then King Pellinore put of his armour. Then so little tofore midnight they heard the trotting of a horse. Be ye still, said King Pellinore, for we shall hear of some adventure. And therewith he armed him, so right even before him there met two knights, the one come from Camelot, and the other come from the north, and either saluted the other and asked, What tidings at Camelot? Said the one knight. By my head, said the other, there have I been and espied the court of King Arthur, and there is such a fellowship that there may never be broken, and well near all the world holdeth with Arthur, for there is the flower of chivalry. And now for this cause I am riding into the north, to tell our chieftains of the fellowship that is holding with King Arthur. As for that, said the other knight, I have brought a remedy with me that is the greatest poison that ever you heard spoke of, and to Camelot will I with it, for we have a friend right near the king, well cherished, that shall poison King Arthur. For so hath he promised our chieftains, and received great gifts for me to do it. Beware, said the other knight, of Merlin, for he knoweth all things by the devil's craft. As for that will I not let, said the knight, and so they departed in sonder. And immediately after King Pellinor made him ready and his lady, and rode toward Camelot. And as they come by the well thereas the wounded knight was and the lady, and there he found the knight and the lady eaten with lions, other with wild beasts, all save the head. Wherefore he made great sorrow, and wept passing sore, and said, Alas, her life I might have saved, but I was so fierce in my quest that I would not abide. Wherefore make ye such dole? Said the lady. I will not, said King Pellinor, but my heart writhe sore of death of her that lieth yonder, for she was a passing fair lady and young. Now will I do by mine advice, take this knight and let him be buried in an hermitage, and take this lady's head and bear it with you unto King Arthur. So King Pellinor take this dead knight on his shield, and brought him unto a hermitage, and charged the hermit with the course, that service should be done for the soul, and take you his harness for your pain. It shall be done, said the hermit, as I will answer to God. And therewith they departed, and come thereas the lady lay with a fair yellow hair. That grieved King Pellinor passing sore when he looked on it, for much his heart cast unto that visage. And so by noon they came unto Camelot, and the king and the queen was passing fain of his coming to the court, and there he was made to swear upon the 4 evangelists to tell the truth of his quests from the one end to the other. A King Pellinor, said Queen Guinevere, you were greatly to blame that you saved not this lady's life. Madam, said King Pellinor, you were greatly to blame, and you would not save your own life and your might, but self your displeasure. I was so furious in my quest that I would not abide, and that repents me, and shall do days of my life. Truly, you ought sore to repent it, said Merlin, for that lady was your own daughter, begotten of the Lady of the Rule, and that knight was good deed was her love, and should have wedded her, and he was a right good knight of a young man, and would have proved a good man. And to this court was he coming, and his name was Sir Miles of the Laundes, and the knight came behind him, and slew him with a spear, and his name was Laurin le Savage, a false knight and a cowherd. For she for great sorrow and dole slew herself with his sword, and her name was Aline. And because you would not abide and help her, you shall see your best friends fail you when you be in the greatest distress that ever you were, other shall be. And that penance God hath ordained you for that deed, that ye should trust most of any man on live, he shall leave you there, and you shall be slain. Me forthinketh it, said King Pellinor, that thus shall me betide, but God may well fordo destiny. Thus when the quest was done of the white hart, that which followed Sir Gawain, and the quest of the brachet which followed Sir Torre, King Pellinor's son, and the quest of the lady that the knight took away, which at that time followed King Pellinor, then the king established all the knights and gave them riches and lands, and charged them never to do outrage nother more there, and always to flee treason, and to give mercy unto him that asks mercy, upon pain of their forfeiture of their worship of the lordship of King Arthur, for evermore, and always to do ladies, damsels, and gentlewomen, and widows succour, strengthen them in their rights, and never to enforce them upon pain of death. Also that no man take no battles in a wrongful quarrel for no love, nor for the world's goods. So unto this were all the knights sworn of the Table Round, both old and young, and every year so they were sworn at the high feast of Pentecost. ends here, the wedding of King Arthur. Alright, so let's go through that part. That was a long piece, 2 stories in there. So, at first we saw Sir Gawain, right? And then, after Sir Gawain, we saw Sir Torre, and Torre did literally everything right. So what Torre does is, this knight asks for mercy, right? And he's like, okay, you have mercy. And then this lady comes and asks him for a gift, right? And so, part of chivalry, if you say you're going to give a gift, you have to give a gift. So he does, right? And he says, sure, I'll give you a gift. And she says, well, this knight that has asked you for mercy is actually not a knight. He killed my brother. He's a terrible guy. And he's like, oh no, I wish I hadn't, now I'm in a blunder because I offered the guy mercy, but I also offered you a gift. And she's like, no, really, he's a bad knight. And Tori's like, you know what, he sounds like a bad knight, and if I don't honor my gift to you, then I will be disgraced for having not followed with that. So he kills the false knight. And let's see. And I love what happens when he gets done. So, because he helps the lady, she and her husband offer him passage always through their place. He can stay there anytime he wants. And then when he gets back to Camelot, talks to the king and queen in the court and tells them of everything. We see what happens, and they're like, wow, that's so cool. And Merlin's like, oh no, not even. He's like, this knight is going to prove noble and of prowess as few that are alive. Like, he's gonna be incredible. He's like, and he's gentle, and he's courteous, and he's tactical, and he is true of his word, and he will never cause outrage. He's basically a great knight. And this is the guy that was raised by a cowherd. This is the guy that was not raised in the courts, unlike Gawain and King Pellinor, his father. And so we see where through Merlin's words. So because of Merlin's words, King Arthur gave an earldom. So he made Torre an Earl Torre, which would have given him a lot of land. An earl of lands that fell into him. So we see there that this guy followed everything and stuck true to his word and was merciful when mercy was required, and was not merciful when mercy was bad. And because of that, he was granted an earldom, like he was made lord over some lands. And so that's huge. And then we see King Pellinor goes about to get the lady, and King Pellinor is very similar to Sir Gawain's experience. King Pellinor sees people he could help, but decides. So King Pellinor, unlike Gawain, so Gawain didn't grant mercy when he should have granted mercy. King Pellinor was so focused on himself that he didn't stop to help this lady. And so when he did that, what happened was he didn't stop to help this lady and her knight, and because of that, because of not doing the right thing, the knight thing, the chivalrous thing, he gets back to King Arthur's court, and Merlin's like, oh yeah, you know that lady that you ignored? That was your daughter. You know, 'cause you do one bad thing, it's actually way worse in Malory. And so that's what happened there, and he regretted it. They all regretted it. He repented. Gawain had to repent. And what Merlin says is, because you weren't there in this other knight's hour of need, in your hour of need, the person you trust most in the world is not going to be there for you. And so, that is the tale of Torre and Pellinor. And I'm going to go eat lunch, and then I'm going to come back, start a new one, and read The War with the Five Kings. Alright, thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed it. Bye.